on. Charlie Baker, the new NCAA president. Is this the smartest thing Charlie Baker can do? Like, let's just drop the pretense. Yeah. If you've got the money to run your own subdivision of athletics, then go ahead and do it. I think this is the beginning, the green lighting of what we've been talking about for what I feel like is a decade or more, a super conference of college football.
Yeah. I think this is the best move that he could have possibly played. It's one that would have been a lot more impactful 6 or 7 months ago, but Charlie's only able to do what his presidents and his ADs and his stakeholders will let him do. Mm-hmm. I think, the way to look at this proposal is not, oh my God, FBS Plus is coming next month. This is Charlie's trying to shift the Overton window about what the definition of amateurism should be on the school side, and also trying to shift it with Congress and with people that keep suing the NCAA. This is a move to say we can't keep risking getting housed again and again. For folks that are unaware, the House v. NCAA case about previous NIL award restrictions, that's $1 billion, $2 billion, $4 billion of damages. That wipes everybody out. This is a move to alleviate that. But it doesn't solve any of their major structural problems. It doesn't change anything about employment, which is what the courts are still looking for here. And you can't get up there in front of and try with a straight face and say, if Kansas or North Carolina or Ohio State are going to bring NIL operations in-house and give people education trust funds and start paying them directly for athletic performance, that's pay to play. And if you're going to do that, even if you say you're not an employee, if not this court, a future court will look at that and say that meets the employment test. It's stalling or hoping to buy time with Congress to protect you from what the courts will definitely do.
All right. So just to be clear, the announcement yesterday, it would be for all sports, not just football.
Yeah.
That's rooted in Title IX, I'm assuming.
That's exactly right. And honestly, I think in this market, it's worth pointing that out. Because one of the places where I believe you will see the most significant change in this world, the quickest, is with baseball and softball. It is a major frustration for ACC and SEC schools that they can't offer as many baseball and softball scholarships as they want, or offer as many paid staffing positions as they want, because Longwood and North Dakota Central A&T and Penn State all decide we're too poor and we don't want to do that. And so I would imagine if we have an FBS Plus world for multiple sports, that Carolina and State and Duke will say, great, we're offering 35 baseball scholarships.
Here's the thing, Matt. Here's the thing, man.
Yeah.
So I don't
Doctors and lawyers, Matt. Doctors and lawyers.
I do not like the framing of Baker's proposal as it relates to the Power 4, since we now have to call it that because the Pac-12 is dead.
Power 2.
It's really a Power 2. I think it all ties back to what we saw with the college football playoff, and the makeup of that 14 playoff are 2 SEC teams and 2 Big Ten teams. And Florida State was on the outside looking in because they weren't in a conference that people view as a viable football conference right now. And I think the framing of acting as though the SEC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the ACC, this Power 4, are going to break off is incorrect. I think it's going to fracture even more. And that FBS Plus that you mentioned goes all the way back to something that Giglio and I have talked about. I know you've talked about this. It's a matter of the football schools that have the money to invest in playing football and can run what is going to be a salary cap free.
Yeah.
There's no salary cap. That's the wild part. A salary cap free league. And you're going to have some hard conversations in the ACC. You're going to have some hard conversations in the SEC and in the Big Ten about, hey, State, man, you can't pay. You don't have the you don't have the entry fee. You don't. What's the poker term?
The buy-in. Yeah.
The buy-in. You don't have the buy-in for this. Wake Forest, you don't have the buy-in for this. There's only so many teams that have the buy-in for this, and that's where this is going. Not this idea of that the Power 4 is going to break off.
No, I actually do think there's a lot of truth to that, and why I bring up baseball specifically is that I think this leads to difficult conversations across a lot of sports, right? Mm-hmm. This is a league that for most of the institutions, everyone's a little bit different, but most of them have this idea about wanting to support a very broad-based athletic department program, be competitive in a lot of places. And could I see a world where it said, okay, we're going to have some difficult conversations. The buy-in for football and men's, women's basketball is going to be X. The buy-in for baseball, where this league can compete for national championships, is X. And hey, we've been offering and supporting swimming or track or volleyball at this level, and that buy-in is changing and it's going lower. Or you can make that decision institutionally. Yeah, I think that's a potential world here, and there are ways to do this, and that still be in compliance with Title IX. One of the important parts of the proposal is this idea that rules about scholarships and about staff spending and those minimums go back to the schools rather than something that's universally set up here. So that could be a world where I think we talked about before with the Transformation Committee, where Cal State Fullerton says, we're going to go all in on baseball and we're going to run a quasi Division III athletic department and everything else, because that's the only place we have a chance to meaningfully compete with Clemson. And we can debate whether that's a good or a bad thing, but this is a step towards that future.
Matt Brown, Extra Points, joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. All right, I saw this yesterday. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm looking at this thing going, now wait a second. The NCAA can't possibly, after all of these years, be adopting something that I've been proposing for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Like cutting in the players to the money that they help generate.
Yeah.
So my question to you, and I'm untrained on such things, and you are the expert, what is the catch here? Because this seems awfully progressive by the NCAA. And I don't trust them as far as I can throw them.
So it's a great question. And I think that the catch is a lot of this motivation isn't because they had a change of heart and the ghost of Christmas past came in there and was chastising them. Big part of this is about control. Here's the thing that bothers so many schools right now about the current NIL portal system is that your general manager is not on the school's payroll. It's the guy that runs the collective. And maybe you have a good relationship with that person. Maybe that person's a white collar criminal or a complete idiot, or has motivations that are independent of what the school and the program actually want. If you're able to say, listen, we're going to cut a deal here with Learfield or JMI, and we get to cut all the players a cut of the shoe deal and of the Coke deal and of putting their faces on billboards, and we can bring some of that stuff in-house, that's more unified governance. And so if we're the NCAA and if we're some of these power players here, if I'm Bubba and I have a chance here to, hey, maybe this gets Chris Murphy off my back in Congress and I get to kneecap some of these collective guys that I don't like. If I get to kneecap On3, if I get to kneecap Sunil, if I get to kneecap Open Doors and take that control back, that's worth $30,000 an athlete to me. And that's part of the struggle here. I think where some fans get confused, and it's not just so much about the schools wanting to control the money. Especially at the Power 4 level. They're not stupid. And even somebody like Bubba, I think, has been on the record. He's told this to me. He said this, otherwise here, he understands you got to make some changes. It's about power and control.
Say Cersei Lannister here.
Yeah. I don't even think that's a sinister thing necessarily. I don't think it's good governance to have a couple of collective guys, laundering money through charities and pretending that's a tax benefit, sure. running your payroll department.
Listen, the NIL is a tax on the fans. That's all.
I completely agree.
And it does eliminate something for the coaches. It's a double-edged sword for the coaches, right?
Yeah.
So I had to defend you against NC State fans when you called out Dave Doran after they beat North Carolina, and he opened up about, hey, Casey Concepcion, I need money, right? Like, fans, give me $1,000 a piece.
This is awesome, but no.
It's great, but you also
like this. You need to pay for it.
You need to pay for it.
Yeah.
And the reason why I defended you is well, clearly you guys aren't paying attention to Matt Brown or others who have pointed this out, right down to Jim freaking Mora at UConn.
Yeah.
Talking about, we just don't have the money for the players. I think it was Mark Stoops was even saying, Georgia's got the best payroll out there, the best players money can buy. And that wasn't a knock at Georgia. It was basically an excuse from the coach to say, hey, look, man, it's a whole new world.
After Texas A&M.
Yeah, man, that was a saber rattle for his boosters, not a shot at Jimbo Fisher. Yeah. So it does eliminate the need for coaches to go out there and beg for money. However, coaches understand this is going to eat into their salaries, right?
Yeah. Honestly, they do. And you've seen this from Jim Harbaugh. You've seen this from Franklin at Penn State. There's been a couple other coaches that have said, and I think if you talk to most head coaches in FBS and private, they'll agree with you. I would take a pay cut if my life became this much easier, because I got into coaching because I want to talk ball. And the more that I have to now fundraise for baloney stuff, or that I have to babysit 17-year-olds and their uncles and their handlers for all these other things, makes the NFL a little bit more attractive. I'm already rich. If I make $5 million and you'd make me make $3.5 million, and now I get to control the groceries that I'm buying here to make the dinner, that's a trade worth having. The people that are I think are going to be the pushback the hardest are the associate AD class and the Learfield class and the Altius class, and this kind of secondary industry of a lot of really well compensated white collar people whose incomes are going to dip significantly when some of this stuff, this industry either goes away or is handled in house.
Well, that's a real shame.
The door ends of the world are going to be fine.
Wait, are you saying middle management's going to suffer? Oh man, that's too bad. That's just too bad.
Allegedly.
Man, I mean, what is America without middle management?
But you're bringing up some great points here. And one of the things I was thinking about is we had a conversation with Mark Gottfried about how there are no contracts and how maybe you do give a Devin Leary $40,000 a month. And then all of a sudden he decides, I want more.
Yeah.
So you're right.
It's
power. I now need to clip the Cersei Lannister and put it on the board. Power.
It's terrible. It's terrible governance, right? You would rather probably take less money if you had some security. And coaches like security too. They would like the idea of being able to go to the beach for 1 week in June. And
not only that, Matt, not only that, if you're saying, right, Dave Doran makes $5 million a year. If you're saying I could take a fifth of that, right, and put it into an NIL for money for the players, and it ensures that I will be coaching to my next contract and my next contract, then it is absolutely worth giving up a fifth of your money in order to keep the job that you have.
So it's funny you mentioned that. After I published that story, I had 3 different Division I basketball coaches whose identities I will protect here. But there were 3 of them that reached out to me and said, I would like to do this. And my compliance department tells me I can't do it. And I called them up and said, I'm not recommending you to break any rules. But if you wanted to do this, nobody would ever catch you.
Right.
And that's something you should think
I've had a conversation with a coach about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like the term money laundering, but I mean, the government doesn't like that term either. But
you could dress it up any way you want, I guess.
Yeah. So that's not tax fraud. If the coach is, am I going to get here and get on my website and be indignant about a coach trying to give some?
Wait, didn't Mike Norvell actually do this when he gave money to what is now the new Seminole booster thing arm that they redid? When he gave a bunch, I think it was $500,000. I'm pretty sure he did this.
It's not uncommon for coaches to give money to the athletic department for facilities or for other things or for signaling. Maybe
FSU brought in that because remember, FSU forever had structural issues. It was kind of part of their problem.
Sure.
Between the booster club, the athletic department, they had this weird relationship. I think they've put all of that under an umbrella. And last summer, I don't like myself for saying this, but Dave Doran gave a bunch of money to the school for special needs students.
Sure.
And I'm sitting here going, Mike Norvell's over here giving $500,000 to the collective, and you're giving $1 million, which is like totally altruistic and awesome. But look where Mike Norvell is in the team. Look where your team is.
Right. Yes. There's levels to
this. I don't like myself as a human pointing that out, but it's the truth.
This beat takes you to some dark places.
Yeah.
if you start thinking about things that way, man. Like I get it. Congratulations on your War Chant membership, and I think you'll fit in great.
Talk about the Knowles, Matt.
Yeah.
All right. We'll close on this. We've sat here and we've had a pretty fascinating conversation about what this could mean, but it has to go somewhere. What's the realistic chance of Charlie Baker's initial proposal to essentially greenlight this super conference or the FBS Plus, as you mentioned? What's the viability of it?
I think as currently written, it's about 0.
Okay.
But that's true for almost every NCAA proposal. So like the unsexy answer here is what's going to happen is that this is going to launch 1 million white papers. This will give the permission for many ADs that have been having these same conversations in private to now start having them in public. I know a little bit about what some of those proposals look like at the low major level. I would be blown away if anything is like formally voted on at the convention next month. What this brings now is going to go into subcommittee hell, just like any kind of legislation that's proposed in Washington. Do I think the chances of something similar to this that would allow wealthy schools to directly compensate athletes in some capacity? Yeah, I do think that's possible. The big question to me isn't so much what the NCAA does, it's what the courts do, because the real people driving this bus, making decisions, are federal judges. It's not anybody in college sports.
I do have a question for you. And
Yeah.
when I saw this yesterday, because I saw someone from Boston College had written about basically Boston College should drop down and go back to the level where they're not having to try to compete with the Alabamas, Ohio States, and Georgias of the world, which I totally and completely agree with. Would it, as it's constructed now, have you been able to discern if the class that gets left behind, that chooses to get left behind, would they still be able to compensate their athletes, or does this go back to the old NCAA model of amateurism? There is no NIL, there is no revenue sharing. It's you get a scholarship and that's it.
Yeah, I'm still trying to make some more phone calls about this. I mean,
Okay.
the NIL will exist at every level. Like that's not something that the NCAA can really get rid of now.
They can't put the toothpaste back in.
They can't put that completely back in the tube. And you're still competing for the same championship. But by Boston College is I think a really good example. I guess we can kind of wrap it up here. I deeply believe, Joe, to your earlier point, we shouldn't look at this as a uniform Power 5 is going to, or Power 4 is going to do X, Y, and Z, and everybody else is going to do something else. There are schools on the G5 or mid-major line that I know are committed to paying whatever it takes to be on the other side.
SMU,
right? SMU. I'm thinking like Grand Canyon. I'm thinking Liberty.
Grand
Boise
Canyon,
State.
yeah, they got money, man. They got a lot of money.
Cal Baptist, right? There's a lot of these places, and then there are places like Boston College and BYU,
Wake Forest.
Wake Forest, that are going to be like, even if we have the money, we have ideological questions, and we have to decide. It's not an accident, the guys that Boston College has voted against, cost of attendance and Alston, and a lot of these other things here. I'm not saying that they're going to go play Williams and Amherst, but I am saying like it's a real conversation.
I think
if you create another level, I would be ecstatic if I was ECU, App State, Boston College, whoever comes back down. I'm celebrating that championship like any other. So if Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State want to go do something else, awesome.
Yes,
they'll go do it.
And I think ultimately this is a good thing for college athletics. The people who have the money to play at a certain level should be together with the other teams, and we can strip this ridiculousness of a conference and why Vanderbilt and Alabama are somehow like-minded in their missions. We are well beyond that point. And the ACC is a prime example of this. You have a group of schools that are well beyond where, as Matt, you mentioned, Boston College wants to be, Georgia Tech. We've had conversations with Steve Forbes about the struggles of Wake Forest and how you have to play the game. Josh Pastner is very open about the fact, like, what am I supposed to do at Georgia Tech when I'm talking to a guy and they want money from NIL? And I go, well,
we have a negative budget.
We don't have a budget.
And
so you're not playing by the same rules, even within your conference.
Right.
So let's strip that crap out and let's put the like-minded schools together. And Giglio, it'll happen.
The IRA Giglio conference.
The schools that all hate each other can be together.
The Bagman
we will love it.
It'll be great.
Matt Brown, extra points. We appreciate it, man.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, fellas. I appreciate you guys.